as my dad says, there's nothing petite about Petite Sirah.
What the hell is going on with Petite Sirah in Suisun Valley?
My family, what really drew us to Suisun Valley was Petite Sirah.
A special part of our AVA that Petite Sirah tends to just be on the softer side.
And as a result, you can actually release Petite Sirah much younger.
You have to say like hashtag Suisun soft tannins.
There's a balance. There's an absolute balance. And if you can hit that, the wines are just delicious.
Probably the more profound red grape of the valley, and that's Petite Sirah. It has found a beautiful home here in Suisun Valley.
Petite Sirah, one of the things that the association, when we first founded in 2003, we recognized, as a group, we talked about what grape, really thrives here, and one of the things that came out immediately was Petite Sirah. And one of the things that stood out about Petite Sirah, we all agreed, was that Petite Sirah can be really, really unapproachable. The tannins can be really aggressive, and it could be a tough one. Yet we were all talking about how soft our tannins were for some reason, and we still don't maybe know to this day why that is, but it's happening, and it's fantastic. I remember my mom always used to say, I don't like Petite Sirah because it tastes like chalk, like you're eating chalk. And I knew what she was talking about. However, Suisun Valley was something different. And we, through all across the board here, super excited and super proud of what we produced here in Suisun Valley with Petite Sirahs. Even in our place, I remember we always made Petite Sirah for blending and put in our other wines. However, we didn't come out with a varietal to maybe a dozen years ago or so. And the first attempt we did came out with a really knockout, and it was just fantastic. And through our wines, I've been excited with the Petite, no doubt about it. And everybody else, again, I will say, different flavor profiles in different locations of the valley, maybe even more pronounced than Sauvignon Blanc. So we had a vineyard over where Brian and where you guys are over there on your location, Gina, and it was the Petites over there brought a whole different, real interesting characteristics, more of a pepper, spicy flavor, rather than when you go more north in the valley. And Jenny will probably be able to allude to this because you have it all over the place, that it was just more of a big, rich, flavored wine. Maybe not as pronounced as certain flavor, just a nice, full-bodied wine. So different style. We happen to get ours in the most northern vineyard we have in the valley. Right now, we've jumped over the place around our vineyards and tried, but we're real happy where we're getting it now. And it does change, but always consistent, softer tannins. And I don't know if you guys, I know you've experienced the same thing because we talk about it. Just, it's amazing how that is. And I just think that that's almost a signature of Suisun Valley. And exactly why, I don't know, maybe it's the rich, deep soils. Definitely have the right climate, ripens well. Maybe it's the soil, I don't know, but it's special. So.
Yeah, I think that the intersection of soil, but also the different climates, right? I think that the spot that you were talking about that has more peppery flavor, that's what we get to work with, and that's has been the joy. So I think, in our opinion, that's, we really love that profile. And it might be the way the bay wind hits that spot first when it blows out from the bay. And that's sort of a unique flavor that you add to the really nice fruit, like kind of dark fruit that you already got from Petite. And at Sunset, we made Petite from various places, including places like Sonoma, like Dry Creek Valley, right? And I think there is a real distinction with Suisun Valley. Like when you go blind taste it, you cannot miss it because the tannin is just so much softer. The fruit is just so much brighter. And as a result, you can actually release Petite Sirah much younger. Like, in our experience, we had made Petite from Dry Creek that we had to wait 15 years until we released. So we had 2004. But with Suisun Valley Petite, we definitely can do that much earlier, and it really fits the sort of the trend, in the marketplace. I've just seen a report today, a Rob report came out that say Petite Sirah, the dawn of Petite Sirah, were the most misunderstood grapes, right? And I think people are just starting to understand it, and both from the maker side, but also the consumer side.
I'll add to that. Obviously, I'm newer to the area as opposed to all of you who've been there for years. Or my family, what really drew us to Suisun Valley was Petite Sirah and the potential that we saw there with really producing high quality Petite Sirah that we, of course, had tasted from all of you. And I think one thing that we've really found to work for us from a farming standpoint in Suisun Valley with Petite Sirah is dry farming, especially the vines that we have on the valley floor in the northern warmer areas. We'll do wider spacing, 10 by 10, some 8 by 8, even some 12 by 12, but dry farm, crown pruned. And something that my dad, he recalls as a kid, that's what Napa was like when he was growing up. That's how vines were farmed. So it's kind of a throwback to that. But for Petite Sirah, obviously being a heavy, it can be high yields, heavy clusters, that wide spacing and spreading all the fruit among crown prune vines has worked well for us. And we also do VSP, and that also is done well. But I think overall the character that's been mentioned before that we really love in Suisun is the softness. It's not too drying. The Petite Sirah is soft, gritty, grippy texture, but it's just has like a supple character and kind of a consistent among all the Petite Sirahs grown there that I've tasted has been kind of like a raisinous prune character in a positive way. So I just love that. And every year I get excited to do blind tastings of all of the producers in the valley and see what that year has to offer.
It's funny, I would talk to other winemakers about Petite Sirah from other areas, and they're always saying, well, we're trying to rein back the tannins, And I always, at first, thought it was because I make such a small amount. Like, I don't have big tanks of Petite Sirah and doing, a lot of pump overs and a lot of maceration. I just do punch downs, which tends to be a softer way of doing things. So I thought it was more my technique until I started talking to more of the other Suisun Valley winemakers and growers of Petite Sirah, realizing it's kind of a special part of our AVA that Petite Sirah tends to just be on the softer side, and you don't have those massive tannins. But the tannins that are there, they can be like velvet, and they're just supple and beautiful, and they age a long time, which is really nice. If you have it in the bottle for a while, you can really enjoy some older vintages of Petite Sirah, like Napa Valley can enjoy older vintages of Cabernet.
Just about everybody here and say that, yeah, they're super poachable super early. I've made Petite from all over the state, and by far, kind of like some of these things are just so aggressive. And for some reason here, I mean, you have to kind of limit in our opinion, the yield a little bit. You have to bring that down to a manageable level. Like we've hung crops where they were way too heavy, and we paid the price. The tannins weren't there, the wine wasn't there, it wasn't good. So there's a balance. There's an absolute balance. And if you can hit that, the wines are just delicious. Like right off the bat, like the 2020 so far this year is great. But I've got stuff from the past 5 vintages which are still stellar. Petite Sirah is a funny one. It can be a little funky at first, because it's just tied up, and you got to sit there and do your oxygenation of it, I guess, just to kind of make things a little smoother, because it can be kind of a little reductive. This year, I just cleaned my tank. I pulled it out of the tank and this, it was stainless tank, and I had to scrub it to get the color out. Not the tan, the color. It's just insane. Like super dark. And the tannins are fine. They're soft, and I'm really happy with this year's vintage. But man, I've never had to like scrub a tank that hard just to get the color off of it.
You know, the other thing that comes to mind is, I mean, beyond FA, I feel like we have to say like hashtag Suisun soft tannins. But I really feel like too, our Petite Sirah in this valley, even though it's this bold, beautiful, luscious, you know, fine grained tannin, it still shows a lot of fruit. I mean, you can throw all of our Petite Sirahs together and it has like some of the most fruit compared to other areas, right? Like just a lot of that bright red fruit, but then also balancing out, like Jenny said, that more raisinous, ripe fruit. And it really does obviously depend on when you pick it, you know, which one of those fruit characters are going to show up. But I'm always shocked at how much fruit all of our different Petite Sirahs show. You know, like I'm trying our 2020 right now, and I'm actually really surprised coming back to it right now how soft the tannins already are. I mean, it's 2020 and the fruit is there, but you know, it still has great structure. I agree with Gina. You know, winemakers that come into this valley and buy our fruit, you almost got to give them a little lesson, like, hey, you don't have to be uber gentle with these grapes. Like you can really work with these grapes and you're not going to end up with a bag of chalk. It's fine. I mean, I've made Petite Sirah a couple years ago that I was so nervous about being tannic that I was frankly too gentle. So, you know, that's crazy to say about Petite Sirah, but that's what happens in Suisun. I mean, you really are able to have that flexibility and do, you know, make wine in a more traditional fashion and not have to wait, what did Foss say, 15 years to release it.
Right.
I totally agree. And a couple of notes that I want to say, I do agree. I'm with the aging part, and I'm not a big fan of aging wines too long. I'm getting lessons from people who like older wines, and one is Jenny's father had to teach me something about it, but I told him I still don't like older wines. But this Petite, the one we did in 2009, I believe, we did a Petite in 2009 that we won some accolades on, and I have a very difficult time storing wine and saving it for the future to try later. So I have friends that hide it from me and then bring it back to me for like my birthday. So that's great. And I tried our 2009 at 9 years old, and it was fabulous. However, it wasn't going to get any better, I don't think, but it was still fabulous. And I'm a person who's not a fan of older wines, but and that's not really that old. However, it really aged nicely. So as you guys have alluded to, the whole ageability is fantastic. I think comparable to Cabernet in many ways.
We chose to call our Petite Sirah Grand Reef. De Reef being a synonym name for Petite Sirah. However, there's, as my dad says, there's nothing petite about Petite Sirah. So threw the word grand in front of it to call it Grand de Reef. But I think because of the unfortunate connotation of, you know, people thinking Petite Sirah is drying and it's, you know, you have a sip and it's hard to speak afterwards. You know, that's been the case historically with Petite Sirah, that for getting this out in the market, it felt right to give it another name and call it Grand rather than Petite Sirah on the label.
And I didn't mention this, today I had texted a picture to Jenny's dad about this beautiful photo I took out of my driveway. And then he tells me he's writing the back label for Grand de Reef. And then I said, well, let the picture inspire you. And then he sends me his Word document of the Grand de Reef. And he used the word Petite Sirah, and that's what my grandpa used to say, and all the old Italians used to say. So it was just when he said that, when I read Petite Sirah, basically like it, P-E-T-A Sirah, and I'm like, oh my God, I've got an instant memory for me. It was pretty incredible. So anyway, the evolution of that grape and how many years ago and how much the Italians loved it is just amazing. And I'm sure I'm sure your dad got that from your grandpa Emmolo on the Petite Sirah farm.
He still calls it, my nonna, my grandpa on the Emmolo side still calls it Petite Sirah. So
yeah, for sure. So, I've had many conversations with Jenny's dad about this, and exactly what she just said is exactly what he said. However, every time that I'm traveling back east, I'm going to a steakhouse, wherever I'm going, and Grand Reef ended up on the wine list, or believe it or not, several people who buy our wine grapes back east go to these nice restaurants and they send me a picture of the bottle. They send me a picture of Grand Reef, if it's Fort Lauderdale, Florida, wherever it is, on the wine list. Every time it's listed under Petite Sirah. And Chuck was saying that Petite Sirah, I understand this isn't as recognized by the public, the everyday wine consumer. However, today, I don't know where he's going with this back label, but he talked about Petite Sirah indefinitely. I mean, all over the place in this back label, mentioned Petite Sirah, made it really awesome. And the prior labels I saw don't mention Petite Sirah at all. So maybe, Jenny, he might be in a different direction with that, but Grand Reef is still the name. I understand that. But I think in the Petite, it's interesting to me because he definitely addressed Petite Sirah, and people are still putting Petite Sirah on the wine list. If it's whatever wine, whatever sommelier, whoever's doing the wine list in these different nice restaurants, they're putting under Petite Sirah. So I get it all. It's a challenge to make Petite Sirah get up there where it belongs. As far as I'm concerned, what we're doing here in this valley with everything that everybody's efforts here in this valley, from the boldness, the richness, the mouthfeel, the length of the flavor, to the ageability, I feel that super exciting. And obviously, Jenny, we're super excited about what you and your family are doing with Petite Sirah. And it's just getting started, and we're real excited. So
we're all in this together, making the best wine, the best Petite Sirah we can. So, why not let it be known it's Petite Sirah and be proud? I make a Merlot separately, and that's been a struggle the whole, do we call it Merlot, call it something else? I do call it Merlot, but it's, it's like if we all collectively make a good Merlot or a good Petite Sirah, that's a benefit to the variety and being proud of it. So
that's about it for our little band of thieves down here in Suisun Valley. I really want to thank these 6 winemakers that joined us to give you a little bit of insight on a couple key grapes down here. Sauv Blanc definitely being one of the flagships on the white side in Suisun Valley, and Petite Sirah, you just heard it from everybody. It's the flagship on the red side. Make no doubt about that. So in lieu of being able to see everybody up and unified, this is our attempt to share a little bit of wisdom from down here in Suisun Valley. My last comment would be that I remember having a long conversation with Clark Smith, the guy that a lot of you in the industry will know. And they did a big panel on Petite here in Suisun about almost 12 years ago. I remember sitting through the panel. The room got very quiet after about 2 or 3 people started putting it in their mouth. It got exceptionally quiet. Then someone blurted out, "What the hell is going on with Petite Sirah in Suisun Valley?" And everybody in the room knew something a little bit different was happening with it here. So we wish we could see you, but this is the best we're going to do for this year. More information on us can easily be found at sbbga.com. That's our grower website from down here in Suisun. It's got a lot of definitions on the grapes that we grow and how else other things happen here. And enjoy the rest of your virtual Unified Wine Symposium for 2021.
Good job, Raj.
Well, cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you, guys.